and welcome to Series 2, Episode 5 of In Suspense, a podcast and vodcast for fans and writers of crime fiction. I'm Lauren North, and my lovely co-host, of course, is Leslie Cara.
Hello.
So in our last episode, we had a fantastic chat with best-selling Sunday Times and New York Times bestseller Sarah Pearse about her debut novel, The Sanatorium, and the concept of how you can have a fresh twist on a classic thriller, which I think her book definitely falls into that category of, with the mysterious locked room hotel that she had. It was a fantastic episode. If you haven't caught up with it yet, do have a look on our YouTube channel or on any of the usual podcast sites. But on to episode 5. Can you believe, Leslie, that we are just 2 episodes now away from the end of series 2?
No, I really can't. It's amazing. And after our planning session last weekend, I'm already excited about series 3 and series 4 and series 5.
Yeah, me too. We've got some fantastic guests lined up, haven't we, for next series and topics. So we'll be talking about that, hopefully, and maybe next episode, our final one of series 2. But let's not jump ahead too much, because we've got a really interesting episode ahead of us, which is we're going to talk about the highs and lows of a writing career, particularly in the pandemic. And for me, it's that last bit, it's that pandemic bit, which feels really important, because it feels like all the emotional roller coasters of a writing career are just completely exacerbated by this Groundhog Day that we're living in. And just, it's so easy to lose perspective when you're just sat doing the same thing over and over again. So I'm really interested in talking to you about it, and also talking to our guest today, who is Jack Jordan, who's going to be on shortly. But yeah, it is tough, isn't it? The pandemic element into a writing career, don't you think?
It is. It's hard enough anyway, isn't it? But with the added sort of stress of the pandemic. I mean, I've been feeling a lot more hopeful lately for all sorts of reasons. I mean, the days are longer and brighter, aren't they? The weather's a bit grim today, but I mean, we had a lovely weekend. It was really sunny, and that kind of always lifts your spirits, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And of course, with the promise of Harrogate possibly taking place, that's incredible. I mean, I think there are several schools of thought about that, aren't there? There's one camp that's hooping and shouting for joy, and sort of planning their Harrodates.
Oh.
And another sort of camp of people that probably are thinking, well, it's a bit too soon, and they're getting a bit anxious. And of course, there's all the people who often attend that festival but who live abroad, and the vaccination programme isn't going so well in some countries, is it? And we don't know about flights and things. So, I mean, I'm sort of in between two schools of thought on that, really. I'm very, very excited about it. And so I've booked a hotel, but I'm also a little bit anxious, and I'm wondering how they're going to do it in a socially distanced way.
Yeah.
It'll be exciting to see what they come up with, and what happens. So
yeah, it will be, and how much social distance is there still going to be in July? Like, it's just, there's such this big unknown about past the 21st of June, like what life's going to look like. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I already had my house booked from last year, so I was always going to be going, even just for a writing retreat. So I'm quite looking forward to the fact it's still on myself. But I agree, it's going to be weird, because I'm going to want to hug everybody and kiss them, and I don't know if we'll be allowed to do that, or whether I'll have even had my vaccine by July. There's so many unknowns, isn't there?
Yeah, I think they're saying all adults will have had their vaccination by then, but who knows? I mean, it's going very well at the moment, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, your natural urge is to sort of kiss and hug people, isn't it? But we will have to be careful about that, I think. But but back to the topic, the highs and lows of the writing life. I mean, as for highs, I'm on a bit of a high this week because it's my publication week. So And of course, the day this goes live will actually be my publication day. So I'm kind of pretending it's today anyway.
Oh, well, happy publication day.
Thank you. And I've got my flowers there from lovely Transworld.
Oh, lovely.
They're on their way out now because I got them on the e-publication day, so they're starting to fade a bit, but they're
Oh,
still
they look
very
gorgeous on
lovely.
you.
So
Lovely. Well, that is a really good high, isn't it? It's one of the best highs of the writing career, I think.
it really is. It really, really is. And but it's not always flowers and champagne, is it? More's the pity.
No.
Sometimes it can be a bloody hard slog being an author, can't it? It really can.
It can be. And I think from my perspective, there's two, the lows or the highs and lows can be put into two different categories. And one of them is like the career highs and lows, like getting the book deal, publication days, and the more personal creative side of things, which is just finishing that first draft, which I did this week. And those kind of having a great writing day is more the creative side of having the highs and lows. And I think there's when I look at my highs and lows, I think talking about the lows now, there's two that really stick out in my mind. And one is a career one and one is a creative one. So for me, the career one was last year. I lost my US publisher, unfortunately, which was a combination of poor sales and the pandemic hitting, and it was just too many things that just they wouldn't renew the contract, unfortunately. And I knew it was coming because even though I'd had great reviews, I knew sales hadn't been great. So it wasn't unexpected, but it still stings a bit to know that I had it and now I've lost it. But we're carrying on going and hoping for another publisher to come on board. But that's, for me, that was a big career low. But the other side of it is the creative lows, which I've spoken about a few times, is this book 2 that I had, which I got rejected of. So I wrote this whole book 2 and both editors hated it. There was no opportunity for editing at all. It was just completely ditched. And then came a really tough 4 to 6 weeks of me coming up with ideas that were then battered down again, which was really knocked my confidence, really made me question what I was doing. And for me, that was a real creative low, and it felt quite personal. And I don't take things very personally. I don't take reviews personally at all. But that felt quite hard, and it took me quite a long time, I think, to get over that whole experience. But I do hope I've learned from it, and I don't think it will happen again. So
I'm sure it won't. No, we do learn from those experiences, don't
yeah.
we? And I often think creative lows are actually worse in a way, because
Yeah.
writing is what we do, isn't it? And when it's not flowing, or you've got all those sort of little mini lows along the way, haven't you? Sort of when external pressures, commitments stopping you from writing, which you've done incredibly well to complete your first draft as well as homeschooling. I've got nothing but admiration for you.
Oh, well, I don't think my children have very much admiration for me at the moment. But I know I always find that so hard, that feeling of being completely torn when you know all you want to do is write, but you can't because you've got other things to do. And that is really hard. And having just finished my first draft, which I finished on Sunday, I can see now that I was completely obsessed. I just wasn't stopping. I was working all the hours of every day. I wasn't taking any breaks. And now that I'm free of it, I can look back and think, oh yeah, I was really in that. And I don't know why
That's
I
a
now
good
can say it.
sign. I think that's a really good sign when you're that obsessed and that sort of into something. I think that really means if you're excited about it, that's a really positive thing. So
Yeah, I hope so. I'm leaving it for a couple of days before I go and read it, so it might be dreadful. Yeah, it is horrible, that horrible being torn feeling. Something that pandemic has really added to with sort of the extra jobs you have on, like homeschooling and letting the admin all build up sometimes, and which I'm definitely do. And also just how we don't quite know what's going to be happening with how our books are going to sell, and where the book launches are going to be happening, on how much we can physically do. And I think that really adds to the lows of the roller coaster. But what about you, Leslie? What about your highs and lows in your writing career?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think my biggest high, was getting my agent in the first place and getting published at all, and the success that I had with the rumour. That was an incredible high that I never ever anticipated, and that's just been brilliant. I think when it comes to lows, I think most of my lows happened before that, to be honest, because I'd been trying to get an agent for some while. I'd written several novels, and I'd got to that stage where I thought it was never going to happen. And that was sort of a creative and a career low, if you like, because I just thought, well, what am I doing? I'd made the decision I would carry on writing anyway because I enjoyed it. But it is disheartening, isn't it, when you get lots of rejections, or you get very, near misses where an agent sort of wanted to read the whole manuscript. Then one agent gave me loads and loads of feedback, and I worked on the novel, and then they still didn't take it after that. So, all of those things can contribute to that feeling of being quite sort of downhearted, really, which makes the highs even more brilliant when they do happen, and you have to really sort of, make the most of them. But the whole business of, as you were saying, during the pandemic, book launches and all those sorts of things. And it's not just that, it's the whole business side of being an author that I find can be a bit overwhelming sometimes. The administration and the social media, all things I love. I love doing all those things. But it's taking us away from our actual writing, and those things seem to have become more important in the pandemic, because it's the only way we can sort of get out there, isn't it, by being online all the time.
That's
So
true.
it's a roller coaster of an old life, but I wouldn't swap it.
No. And do you think that the high that you've got for The Dare, which is book 3 for you, is equal to the same high for The Rumour and your other books? Does it feel the same?
It's similar. I mean, I think I don't know about that. Perhaps it's not the same, because when it's your debut, everything is unknown, isn't it? The first time you get a review, you think, oh my goodness, or you get something in a magazine about you. And then, those sorts of things, you become a little more used to them, but they're still just as exciting. I think it's just a different type of excitement, isn't it? And maybe you enjoy it a little bit more, because I think, if I had the chance to go back and relive that first year when the rumour came out, knowing what I know now, I'd have enjoyed it a lot more. I think I was so sort of het up and fraught and sort of, oh my God, what's happening? That, perhaps I didn't take it fully in. Whereas this time around, you can actually enjoy things when they happen.
Yeah, I think you're right there, definitely. But our guest today is someone who certainly knows a thing or two about highs and lows of a writing career. And it's someone who has had a fantastic high during the pandemic, which is one of the reasons I'm very excited to speak to him. And that is the wonderful Jack Jordan.
Yay! Hello, Jack Jordan. Thank you for joining us. We're really, really excited to have you on the show. Because we three we already know each other, don't we? We've known each other for quite a long while now, so it's really exciting. We all live in the same sort of roughly the same neck of the woods, don't we?
Yeah, no, it's lovely. It's sort of like a catch up, seeing friends after a long year, isn't it? So, yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's fantastic to have you on the show, and I'm going to introduce you formally for the benefit of our watchers and listeners. For those at home, or wherever most people are at home now, aren't they? Jack is a global #1 best-selling author who started his career self-publishing. His books include Anything for Her, My Girl, A Woman Scorned, Before Her Eyes, Night by Night, and out in 2022, Do No Harm. Yay!
Thank you.
So, Jack, our topic for today is the highs and lows of being a writer, particularly during the pandemic. And we thought that you would be the perfect guest for today's show, because sometime last year there was a rather big announcement in the bookseller and concerning your good self. And so we were wondering whether you would first of all like to start by telling us a little bit about that announcement and about the book that it relates to.
Yeah, of course. Oh, well, yeah, no, thank you for having me. And you're definitely right. There are highs and lows in every writing career, I think. I think, the most important thing is to celebrate those highs, isn't it? But But yeah, so in October, it was announced in the bookseller that I'd signed a new deal with Simon and Schuster, a new 2-book deal. So yeah, I'm really, really excited. And the first one that comes out is called Do No Harm. And that comes out in summer 2022 in hardback and ebook at first, and then paperback in 2023. And Do No Harm is about a renowned heart surgeon, Dr. Anna Jones, whose child is abducted by an organised crime ring. The abductors give Anna a terrifying ultimatum: kill a politician on the operating table or never see her son again. The novel asks the question, which is stronger, a doctor's oath or a mother's vow to protect her child?
Wow.
Oh, it sounds amazing. I am very, very excited about it. And it's just a truly phenomenal deal that you've got. And it's a fantastic career high. And I am so, so pleased for you. So massive congratulations, Jack.
Thank you very much.
Now, I think we spoke about this a bit as well last year, but during the pandemic, there was so much worry from authors. I was out on Sub and I saw a lot of people talking about the fear of not quite knowing how the pandemic was going to affect the deals, whether they'd even get a deal. So how did it feel going out to Sub during such uncertainty?
I mean, I think, as you both know, going out on submission is just so nerve-wracking anyway, because you've spent months or years on this one book. It's your baby, you've done everything for it, and then you put it out into the world, and you have no control. Once you hit send, there's nothing you can do. So and you can try and not think about it, but it's all you can think about, and you get repetitive strain injury from refreshing your thumb on your emails, and so already it's a very, very tense situation to be in. And then with the pandemic, it sounds strange to me. I just focused on the main stress of it being on submission regardless. And then it was going to be stressful either way. So I just tried to distract myself how I usually would. What I've learned is that the book trade's it's survived so many different uncertainties. So I think although it's rightful to be anxious and worried about it, they're always going to be buying books because books are always going to be sold. And that's so I think that in hindsight, it's when things like this happen, it's just focus on you, focus on what you've done, and just be proud of that.
Good answer. And tell us, how you actually managed to write during the lockdown. I mean, I know that you had a very particular routine, didn't you, pre-COVID? You used to hit the gym in the morning. It wouldn't suit me, but... used to hit the gym in the morning, and then I think you used to write in Costa Coffee. You used to do your writing in the afternoon. So obviously that's had to change. So how did you find, adjusting to a new routine?
Well, I mean, funnily enough, we do live very close together because Lauren and I went to the same gym. So we'd be at the gym and just pass each other, say hello, or quickly grab a coffee or something. So it's such a small world. But yeah, I mean, I'm a very structured writer. I love routine. I like to plan. So I thought, I can't work from home. This is going to be, I need to be out and about. Because obviously when you work alone as well, you kind of need a little bit of interaction. So I was apprehensive at first, but now I work from home. I really, really like it. Apart from the fridge is too close, that's an issue. I keep going back and forth to the fridge a bit too much. And I can't cancel out in the gym, that is the only big issue. But yeah, I do miss my routine, but at the same time, it's been nice to be at home. And yeah, no, I think I've just adapted quite well. I mean, with the writing and being creative during lockdown, that can be really tough, can't it? I mean, I'm sure you both have felt this as well, to try and get the creative juices flowing when you're under so much mental stress. But I think because for me, I'm quite a goal-orientated person, so I just focus on that. So it actually helps me tune everything else out. So when I sit and write, or when I'm thinking about something, that's kind of my haven. And then when I stopped writing, I'd be worried again about everything else.
And you started planting things, didn't you? I saw some of your pictures on Twitter. You're doing some indoor gardening, was it? Or
I did, honestly. My desk became the whole windowsill, the whole desk, it was covered in seedlings and different plants I was growing. It became a bit much. So I'm not doing as many this year, but yeah, I found that in lockdown to be to nourish something and watch something grow and see progress. I made me really, really happy, and it actually taught me that I love gardening. So it's my new hobby now.
So having got your new writing routine now, Jack. Do you think you're going to return back to the old one of the gym and Costa again? Or, have you managed to keep your spirits up and keep writing in the tough year? Are you going to go back, or are you going to stick with the same one you've got now?
I think I'm going to do a bit of both. I think I do love writing from home, but I will definitely go back to the gym because of the fridge issue. But also I do like writing in a coffee shop occasionally. I know it's the right cliche, but it does really help to just, even though I'm focusing on my own little world, I've got people around me, so it kind of just feels like you're still part of the world. I think when we've probably all found this year, when you're at home constantly, you kind of forget the outside world's out there. So I think it's important to get out there as much as possible. Their coffee's really good. It keeps me going. I haven't got that level of coffee strength at home, unfortunately, but so I just have to have more. But yeah, so I think I'll do bits of both. So maybe the usual old routine, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then at home Tuesday, Thursday.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I've cancelled my gym membership at the moment because I went last summer. I was like, oh, I've got my own. I'm going to be running. I'm going to do my own fitness classes at home, which has really gone out the window this year. So I don't know if I might actually be back at the gym. Like you, I think I might need to have some sort of more structured routine.
Yeah, I do. We cancelled our gym. We go to a different gym, obviously, but we cancelled ours. And I mean, I didn't sort of do much in the gym. I used to go swimming, and I did a few sort of classes, but we've been doing kind of online classes as well, online yoga and Tai Chi, so that's been really good. But I do miss going on the treadmill, actually. I don't do many weights, but I do like sort of marching along on the treadmill. So I've been trying to go out for long walks. Yeah. I
mean, I love running on the treadmill, and I've never been a path runner. I just love the treadmill. I didn't have to feel self-conscious. I didn't have to worry about tripping over because I'm quite clumsy. So for the whole year, I've just done the exercise bike at home instead of being on the treadmill and running. But after a year of it, I thought I really miss running. So I went for my first run outside on Sunday. So it's not as scary as it sounds or feels, I promise. Although you ache after a break.
Now, Jack, you've had an incredible writing journey. As I said in your introduction, you started off as an indie author, didn't you? Publishing your own books, and then you got an agent, and I believe you then got a publishing deal with, was it Corvus, an imprint of Atlantic Books? Is that correct? And now you've got this fabulous new agent and a great deal with Simon and Schuster. And so, is it Schuster or Schuster? I never know how to pronounce that, but
well, embarrassingly same.
Maybe you better find out, seeing as they get publishers.
It's Simon and Schuster. I always used to say Simon and Schuster, but Simon and Schuster. Yeah.
And I was wondering, what's kept you going throughout those years, because you've had a lot of change, a lot of ups and downs, and it must have been quite unsettling at times. I mean, I find change very unsettling. So what is it that kept you going and enabled you to hold on to your dream?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think I'm personally a very determined person. So I always go for what I want, and I don't let up until I get it. So that's just always been my personality ever since I was a child. So yeah, it's always been the end goal. There's never been an opportunity for it not to happen. It's just how long will it take and how can I get there? And if it doesn't work one way, I just change direction to go at it a different way. So when I about 10, oh my goodness, I started writing about 11 years ago this year, and I probably first submitted to an agent about a decade ago, and for 3 years I tried to be traditionally published, and I wasn't picked up. So instead of thinking, oh, it's not going to happen, I thought, right, I'll find a way. So that's when I self-published, and I self-published 2 books. And my first book did very well, but my second book sold over 100,000 copies.
That's amazing. Brilliant.
Really amazing.
And through that process, I was actually learning how to publish myself. So I was learning all the tricks of the trade. And then I was able to enter through with that success into traditional publishing and get myself an agent and get myself a publisher. And then have that traditional dream. But then always having an end goal of what I wanted. I think every author dreams of having the lead thriller or the lead title or a nice big marketing package, things like that. So I've always thought, okay, this is the end goal, this is what I want, and just always striving. I think you've just got to always keep going and always believe in yourself more than anyone else.
Yes, and it takes such a lot of determination, doesn't it? And you've obviously got that in spades, Jack Jordan.
Definitely. It don't you find that the goalposts move though? Once you've got one, it's suddenly like, oh, right, well, now I need to get the next thing. And there's always this like new levels revealed that you're like, oh, I need to get that now.
Constantly, absolutely constantly. And I think with like you said in the intro, how this career is up and down for every single author. And I think it's knowing, I think luckily with this industry, you get a lot of rejection, so you learn to deal with it better. You learn not to take it personally, just know it's the business, and then just own your craft and keep going. So you kind of get that protection over the years. But then also it's learning to celebrate the small things. So I think when I first got there's different types of rejections from agencies, isn't there? So there's the standard copy and paste, or there's the personalised one. Well, I got my first really nice personalised one, basically saying, oh, you know, really good, just change a few things. I had it printed and framed on my desk, and I was like, I'm the next stage. So now Yeah. So I think, right, I've got that. Next time it's going to be an acceptance. So it's constantly achieving that. Always have find a reason to pop the champagne and keep going. That's all I can say. Because if you keep going and don't give up and keep evolving and nurturing your talent, it will happen. It's just a matter of your perseverance and your determination in yourself.
And of course, you've got to enjoy it, haven't you? Under all of that determination, you love writing. So that's also what keeps you going, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And also, I think you've got to love the idea of, I mean, I think all authors can be quite self-critical, but I think you've got to love, within that being a self-critic, you've got to love the learning of it and seeing how much you're improving. I think that's really, really important. Just, really honing your craft, enjoying the whole process, like you said.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's really, really great advice. So I hope lots of people who are listening are nodding as well as we are. And I was wondering, for the benefit of the people at home who haven't read any of your books yet, if you could tell us what is your favourite out of all your novels, and why, if you can. I mean, I know it's hard. It's like children.
I think the one every single time it seems to be the one I'm writing at the moment, or the one I've just written, because it's the most polished. And then every time I write a new book, no, this one's the better one. No, this one's the better one. That's always the way. So at the moment, Do No Harm is probably my favourite. But the one that's published at the moment will be Night by Night, my previous one. But it's also my favourite because it's got LGBTQ themes, which is really important to me, and it's a personal book as well as a thriller. So I love that book. It's got a special place in my heart.
I think that's a fantastic answer. How has your writing evolved, do you think, from your earlier books to now? Like, has the process for you changed at all? You talk about being a planner. Were you always a really big planner? Did you always have a spreadsheet going? How's it changed for you?
I mean, the quality's definitely changed. As we all look back and go, did I write that? But then it just shows how you're improving. So again, there's a positive side to it. But with planning, I found out I was a planner. I mean, I'm that sort of minded anyway. I like organisation. I plan everything before I jump into a task. But when my first book I ever wrote, I never actually sent it off for anyone. I saw it as practice. I thought, who am I? What kind of writer am I? And I found out during that process of jumping into it that I needed a plan. Because there's planners or pantsers, isn't there? And I'm definitely not a pantster, I'm a planner. So literally once I learned that that's what I'm into, that's exactly what I do. I lay it out every single time. I like to have cue cards. I like to have spreadsheets. I like to have Word documents, and I do a lot of research beforehand. So I like to go in with as much detail and information as I possibly can have.
Well, that's interesting about the research, because you mentioned that Do No Harm's about a doctor. That must have been a lot of quite intense research then, to really feel like you could write both a doctor and a heart surgeon, no less. So that must have been really tough, because I've done a doctor before, and it is quite tricky.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's kind of like with the writing, if you love that, and I'm sure you found the same, it's so interesting, isn't it? Like, to learn something new. With writers, we kind of have so many different careers. Like, I've been a heart surgeon, I've been a detective. My book after this I'm going to be a barrister. There are all so many different things. So I love jumping into a task and not really knowing much about it, just because I'm genuinely interested as a person as well as a writer. But then so it's a lot of reading because you want to get it right. And so from when you're cutting open a person's chest right down to the end of the process, you kind of got. My trick is I need to know enough to know what I'm talking about to be able to write it so people
Yeah.
understand. I almost know too much detail and only give about a smidgen of what I actually learn. But if I know it all, then I can communicate it better.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's good advice. I recently had a session with Graham Bartlett. He's a retired police inspector, and I probably got his rank wrong, I don't know, but he gives lots of police advice to crime writers, and I haven't got much of a police procedural thing going on in my novel at all, because it's a psychological suspense novel, the one I'm writing, like all of mine, but there's a little bit more sort of darkness in this current one.
Ooh.
And so I wanted to make sure that I'd got any references to the police, you know, that side of things absolutely spot on. So I had a sort of session with him, a Zoom meeting, and half of it I won't use, but having got that in my head, it can inform every little sentence or thing, every little reference I make. I can make sure it's sort of, you know, it's as authentic as it can be. So I think that, yeah, that's and one of my current characters is actually, it's not a very exciting profession. She's an accountant, and I mean that doesn't play a big part in the story. Just in case everyone's thinking, oh my God, I don't want to read a novel about an accountant. But I actually emailed my accountant and said, can you tell me what you do? I just want a few, you know, what, you know, little tasks and things that I can just sort of pepper through. So she sent me a big long list of her daily activities. So that will
I'll tell you what though, I've the cliche obviously is accountants, you know, it's quite a boring profession and whatnot. I met my latest accountant is very, very fun, and against all odds. Yeah. Honestly, no, I was like, oh my God, I'm keeping this one.
Absolutely, and I don't want any accountants listening. God, if my accountant's listening, is she there? No, she's a really fascinating, fabulous person. I think it's just one of those sort of myths, isn't it, that accountants are boring?
No,
it's not true. It's not true.
Yeah, no, it really is. So you go into that, you're thinking, oh, well, you know, everyone's very serious because it's numbers and scary and tax and scary. But no, I was like, you're fun and nice and blah, blah, right, you sign me up. So no preconceived notions about accountants, because your books are always fantastic.
Oh,
so it's going to be brilliant.
Thank you, very kind of you. Now, lots of authors, Jack, struggle to read when they're at certain stages of their writing. I'm sort of there now. I find it difficult to get into a novel right at the moment because my head is so full of what I'm writing. I wondered if you were one of those writers, Jack, and if so, you know, whether you're reading anything at the moment, or what sort of, you know, how does writing affect your reading?
Yeah, I think I think writing affects my reading a lot. I think just because as a writer in general, I think about it as a writer. So it's kind of, it is a hobby, but then at the same time, the writing never turns off. So I can't really immerse myself in books like I used to as just a reader, which I kind of miss. But no, when I'm writing or editing, or I do try to read something completely different. So at the moment I'm reading nonfiction that isn't linked at all to the book. So that's kind of my cleanse the palate, think about me, get rid of the book, my book kind of thing.
Yeah. And what about you, Laurie? I've just realised the light is just streaming in on me, and I'm just going to pull my blind down a bit. I mean, I shouldn't complain about the sun, should I? But
especially because it's still grey where I am. And what maybe actually, I'm beta reading a friend's book at the moment, which I can't talk about other than I'm really enjoying it. And it'll be ages before I can mention it. But I did get sent two really exciting books that I can't wait to read. The first one is The Wedding Party by Tammy Cohen. So that's been on Twitter a bit this week. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that. And the second one was All Her Fault by Andrea Mara. So that's another one I'm really looking forward to. And then my next read is The Jigsaw Man. So I've got this dive into, which came out last week. So I'm really excited about that. So yes, what about you, Leslie?
That's good, because Nadine Matheson is coming on the show, isn't she, in a couple of weeks? Well, as I said, I'm at that stage where I'm not really reading much at the moment because I'm so focused on my own. I'm really looking forward to reading a proof by B.A. Paris, which I hope is winging its way to me, called The Therapist. I think we're both going to get a copy of that, aren't we, Laurie? So really looking forward to that one. And so
I just realised I didn't give you the title of the book I was reading. I just said I'm reading nonfiction. I'm reading Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. Have either of you read that?
Oh, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
By Susan Jeffers. Yes, it's non-fiction. It's been out for years now, but it's absolutely amazing. The reason why it's been so successful is because it works so well. So if you're scared about your career, if you're scared about things I was talking about running and feeling self-conscious, like how I, for a whole year, I didn't go out running on the street. I'd rather use the treadmill. I've been reading this book and I'm now running on the street. It's the most empowering book I've ever read. I'm only halfway through and I've bought 4 copies for people I know.
That's always a good sign.
It is. I have been sent another proof. I've stupidly left it downstairs. I'm not with it today. I'm never with it, am I? But it's by Eva, and I have to pronounce this correctly, Eva Björg Ejesdottir. Actually, I was on a panel with her a couple of weeks ago at Granite Noir, and I've been sent her latest, Girls Who Lie. And that looks really good. So I hope to be able to get into that once I've got this draft finished and I can get that off to my editor. Then I hope to get stuck into The Therapist and Girls Who Lie. So, gosh, what are we doing now? Oh, yes, we've come to our fun part of the show, Jack. That sort of presupposes that the rest has not been fun, and I hope it has.
It has been fun.
Now then, okay, so in one of your previous interviews, Jack, I read it online, you described yourself as an introvert disguised as an extrovert, an intelligent person who can say very unintelligent things, can't we all, and a self-confessed bibliomaniac with more books than sense, which is a great quote. I love that. And I'm sure that many of us writers can identify with that introvert disguised as an extrovert. I really can. And sometimes the excitement, of being away from our desks and being out in the wild can go to our heads a bit, can't it? So we were wondering whether there's been a time when you've sort of really put your foot in it or gone a bit too wild.
I always did put my foot in it. I think because, like you say, you never see, because we don't go out. We're so excited when we do. We can. So I went to Harrogate Crime Festival a couple of years ago, and I'd been so excited that I hadn't got any sleep the night before, and I travelled all the way from Essex to Harrogate, so it was a very long train journey. So I had no sleep and a long train journey. When I finally got there, I got a drink. I sat down with some authors I was very impressed by and admired. And as I sat down, I knocked my beer, and it went over an author's partner's lap.
Oh.
So that was me putting my foot in it big time. But yeah. So if anyone clumsy watching, you're not alone. And it doesn't feel, when in films when the protagonist is clumsy, but it's really endearing. It doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel endearing at the time, but yeah. So next time I'm going to hold up a vice-like grip on my pint.
Oh, I'm very clumsy as well. I'm always spilling things. What about you, Laurie? Have you ever put your big Laurie long toe feet in it?
Yes, always.
Sorry, I slipped that
everyone about that
name in there.
I'm like Jack. I think like what you said, but we don't go out very often. So when we do, we generally say the wrong things and we babble a lot. But I mean, and there are just countless examples, but I remember one when I was running a pensions panel back in way before I was writing. And one of the panelists, her surname had changed. So in front of everyone, I was like, oh, congratulations, you've got married. That's so wonderful. And she got divorced. So I was like, tumbleweed moment, and I was just like, oh well, is that a congratulations anyway? And it was mortifying. And I was obviously then I moved from pensions into public relations very quickly after that. So that's mine. What about you, Leslie?
Oh, do you know, I'm always making a fool of myself. It's a continual thing, I'm always sort of bounding up to people, festivals and things, bounding up to people, complete strangers, but I recognise them from Twitter, or maybe we've had a couple of comments and I'm sort of bound up to them, hello, and they're obviously looking, who is this mad woman coming up? But I also remember, this was at Harrogate as well. Why do all my embarrassing
And mine.
happen at Harrogate? It's a mecca for embarrassment, obviously, for us authors. Yes, I was talking to my editor, my lovely editor, Sarah Adams, and we were having a lovely chat. And then Larry Finley, who's the managing director of Transworld, and he's such a lovely guy.
Lovely.
We were having a lovely chat. Isn't he lovely, Laurie? He's an absolute darling. And we were having a really nice chat. And I think we were laughing, or I was laughing about the first time I'd met them all, when I'd worn these ridiculous high heels, you know, and I'm tottering about and I could barely walk, and thought never again. And I looked down at our feet. So there's my feet, Sarah's feet and Larry's feet. And I said, oh, well, we're all in our flats today. And I thought, well, obviously Larry's in his It was just, Sarah was just laughing at me, and Larry obviously thought, this woman's mad.
Luckily, I think there's this air of writers are mad as hatters. So I think that there is a certain amount of getting away with it, I think, when you put your foot in it.
Definitely.
Well, at least we know we're not alone. It's not just us. At least
yeah. we all hang out together. We'll be okay.
Yes, we can spill drinks over each other and interrupt each other and tell.
I'll wear my heels.
Right, so we're now on to our quick fire round, Jack. So I'm going to ask you really quick questions. You just have to say the first thing that comes into your head, okay? Scrivener or Word?
Word.
Paperback or ebook?
Paperback.
Are you writing at a desk or writing on a sofa or bed?
Desk. Otherwise I fall asleep.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Bike or run?
Run.
Beach or vineyard?
Wine at the beach.
Cat or dog?
Dog.
Acting or writing?
Writing.
Netflix or Prime?
Netflix.
And would you rather jump out of an aeroplane or do a bungee jump?
Can I watch?
Yeah, I would pick. That's it. That was all I could think of today.
Oh, no, that was really good. Thank you.
That last one, yeah, I couldn't do either of those things. Sorry.
Wouldn't catch me.
I wish I could. I wish I had the guts to do it, but that's. I mean, I really feel the fear and do it anyway. You never know. You might see me next year jumping out of a plane and bungee jumping. You never know.
You never know. Well, I always have trouble at the kids. When the kids were a bit smaller, they used to drag me into these soft play places and playgrounds, and there were like drop slides which sort of go like drop right down, and I barely can do them. So you definitely won't catch me going out of an aeroplane anytime soon.
I'm the same as you. No. As a kid, especially as a kid, there's one ingrained into my brain that I could never go down. It was. I think maybe I might have to go back just to have an adult party just so I do it on the bucket list. That one slide.
Jack, thank you so much for being on our show. We have absolutely loved having you on. I mean, you know, I was going to say earlier that, you know, this success that you've got with this new deal and a new agent, it couldn't happen to a nicer, and I genuinely mean this, it could not have happened to a nicer, more hardworking man. It really couldn't.
Oh, thank you.
You deserve every bit of it because you've worked so hard to get where you are, and your story is really inspirational. We've just loved having you. We've loved having you on.
Oh well, thank you as well. I mean, it feels like just catching up with friends, and it's with an audience. So yeah, no, it's been really lovely, and I can't wait until we can actually allowed to meet up for a coffee properly. So that would be lovely.
Won't that be heaven?
Yes, it will be. Yeah, and your determination and talent really shines through, Jack. So it has been a real pleasure to have you on.
Well, I'm a big fan of both of yours, so thank you very much.
And so in our next episode and our final episode of series 2, as we said, we'll be talking to Nadine Matheson, author of the phenomenal The Jigsaw Man, which I'm really excited to read next. We'll be posting tweets about that episode and the topic very soon. So if you have any questions for Nadine, you can ask us on Twitter, which is our @InSuspensePod, or via the comments on our YouTube channel. So do get in touch if you have any questions for Nadine.
And that just leaves us with the final task of saying thank you for watching In Suspense. That
was slightly better, I think.
It was slightly better. Yeah, I think I think it's a time lag, isn't it, with the technology? It's not
Yes,
our
Pat
fault.
kindly pointed that one out for us earlier. So,
Yes, it's definitely a time lag. And were we all in the same room, it would have been perfect. So
one day we should do it together, and then we'll know, won't we? We could meet up and do it.
yeah, that would be fun actually. When COVID, when COVID is a thing of the past, if that happy day ever happens, we could sit round a table and actually record this in the same room. Wouldn't that be brilliant?
Lovely.
That would be fantastic. And you'll have to join us, Jack.
Yeah, I was going to say, have me back.
You can be our guest presenter.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
All right then, everybody. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.